Okay, so we should be live now. Let me get the link. Right. So let's share the link in the group. That's the first thing I want to do. Okay. We are live now. Okay. Okay, we've already got some viewers. That's good. So let's wait for a couple of minutes. Hey, ciao Mark. We are ready. Good to see you, Mark. Come stai? So the idea is to go through a few sentences. Bene. Bene, sono contento. So today we're going to go through a few sentences. You mentioned, I think it was you in the group that mentioned the tenses. Amedeo, saluti, saluto. Okay, good. We got a few viewers already. This is brilliant. Awesome. Yeah, so the idea today is to focus on tenses, and especially the very basic tenses in Italian. Italian, fortunately, unfortunately, has a lot of tenses. So today we're going to go through the three most useful ones, and you know, depending on time, maybe a couple of more. I don't want this session to be too long. I don't want it to be a 1 or 2 hour session. So potentially we're going to be able to go through the sentences in 10, 15, 20 minutes. We'll see how we do. So let's go to the exercises. Right, can you all hear me well? And can you also see the screen? Can you see everything? This is one of the first lives I do, so I'm not very familiar with how this software works. Hopefully I got a hold of it, but give me a sign if you can hear things fine. Okay. All right. So I would like for us to begin by translating this sentence. Pizza is tasty. It's a very simple sentence, but let's see if it is easy enough or not. I would like this to be as interactive as possible, and I'm happy with driving, but it's good to have input from the crowd, input from the students. Mi piace pizza. Okay, so this is a good attempt. Mi piace pizza. So the first thing to say about this is that it is understandable. Any Italian native speaker would understand what this means, right? Mi piace pizza. A couple of things. So first of all, great. Pizza is a word that doesn't need any translation. It's already an Italian word. Mi piace is an interesting way to say the pizza is tasty. It basically means I like pizza. Pizza is appealing to me. And the verb piacere is used in the reflexive, in a reflexive way in Italian. So it sounds very Italian. It's not an exact translation because we need an article. And Italian has lots of articles, but in particular, the definite articles in Italian are very common. So it is way more common than in English. In many situations in which in English you would normally not put any articles, in Italian you do. So mi piace pizza is okay, but it's la pizza. This is more clear, it sounds more natural. Mi piace la pizza, as opposed to una pizza, which would be I like a pizza in particular. For example, we could go to a restaurant and how can I change the color? Put it red. Yeah, this is important. We go to a restaurant and say vorrei una, or actually voglio. It's not rude, but let's just say I want. Voglio una pizza. With una being an indefinite article, right? We'll color it green. Voglio una pizza. I'm not sure if you can see things well. We have una pizza è buono. Okay, this is also a good attempt. This is actually even better. La pizza è deliziosa. Valeria, that's a great translation. So let's take a look at all of these attempts. There's something good in each of them. They're very good. They're all understandable. So I'm really picking here just to make sure that we understand everything. So mi piace la pizza is fine, but this means I like pizza. What about pizza is tasty? So I'm looking for something more literal. And the attempts, the later attempts are more literal. So una pizza è buono. So the problem with this, una pizza è buono. So this is again, Mark. Una pizza is fine. We're not talking about a pizza in particular. So we want to make a generic statement with this sentence. So la pizza would be pizza in general. La pizza è buono. Remember that adjectives have to agree with the noun they refer to. So buono in this case refers to the pizza, and the pizza is feminine, so we have to go with buona. This is an important point. Second, it should be è, right? So this is another mystery that we discuss in the university course about the fact that Italian has 5 vowels on paper, but then it actually has 7 vowels when it comes to pronunciation. So this is not e buona, but it's è buona. So we have to use the accent, the correct accent. So, la pizza è buona. This is present simple, right? We're always talking about pizza in generic terms, so we're always using the present simple. So far we use the present simple. Mi piace, present simple. Voglio, present simple. È, present simple. Again. La pizza è buona. Esatto. Corretto. Amedeo, la pizza è buona, sì. Mark, buona. Exactly. La pizza è deliziosa. Deliziosa is a great adjective to use. Is a little bit different than buona. The problem with buona is that the adjective buono in Italian has different meanings depending on context. So it can actually be helpful for a beginner to shy away from such adjectives and stick with very precise sort of mono-use adjectives. For example, delizioso is something that is tasty, and it cannot be used in any other way, or at least I can't think of any other way to use the term delizioso. Deliziosa, in this case. So if you say questa persona, questa persona è deliziosa. I mean, you could say that, but it doesn't make too much sense and it's not common. Delizioso is always used in the realm of being delicious, being good in terms of being tasty, while in fact questa persona è buona, this means that it's a good person, meaning good at heart, not good in terms of tasty. So buono can have many meanings. Delizioso is more precise if we want, if we wish. But this is also good. La pizza è buona works very well. La pizza è deliziosa. La pizza è saporita. La pizza è gustosa. These are all adjectives that we can use without any issue. Right. So far we've been talking about this particular sentence. It's a very simple sentence. It uses the present simple. È. And we can find this. This is actually very important. So the question, what are the tenses that are most useful? Definitely the verb to be in the present simple is extremely useful. Io sono, tu sei, lui, lei è, noi siamo. And then, does anybody know the voi and loro? Does anybody remember the present simple, the verb to be, the second and third person plural? Exactly. Valeria is correct. Voi siete, loro sono. 100%. Voi siete, loro sono. So the reason why the conjugation for the verb to be is so important is because we are going to need it for another tense that is also useful in Italian. So the most useful tenses in Italian: 1, present simple. 2 would be the present perfect. Why? So present simple, present perfect. Why is it important? Because it's used as the past simple in English. So whenever you say in English, yesterday I went to school, yesterday I went to work, in Italian you would say, yesterday I have gone to school, right? Sono andato a scuola. So it's important. And the third very important verb is the future. Future simple. So with these three tenses, they're all part of the indicative mood. And again, we talk about this in the university course at length, the moods, the tenses, and what it means, how it all fits together. But for the purpose of the video, these three tenses are especially important because they allow you to talk about nearly everything: past, present, and future. And then perhaps the other tenses that are important to learn, they're also the easiest ones to learn. One is the infinite, and then we have the gerund. So for example, to be and being, right? They don't have 6 different persons to learn, so they're really trivial. But in terms of like tenses to learn, present simple, present perfect, and future simple. Now, here's the deal. If you want to say, for example, I go to school, how would you translate this sentence in Italian exactly the way it is? So in the present simple, I go to school. Does anybody know? Does anybody know the word for school? Okay, vado a scuola. Exactly. And the logic behind this is that vado is the first person singular of the present simple. A scuola, to school, right? We have the preposition, we have the noun, scuola. Fine, that's all well and good. Now, if I want to use the future simple, I will go to school. All I have to do is change the tense. So instead of vado, I will go andrò. Andrò a scuola. Now, it's not important that you know already what this, the future simple conjugation, even though, as I said, it's very useful. So I suggest you learn it. The point that I'm going to make now is that if we want to say, I went to school in the past, say yesterday or last week, I went to school. I went to school. We already know that to school is a scuola. How would you translate I went? So in Italian, we don't need the past simple. We need the present perfect, right? The present perfect. So we're using the present perfect instead of the past simple. So what would be the present perfect first person singular? Exactly, Mark. Sono andata a scuola. Sono andata a scuola. For if it's a woman talking, or if it's a man, sono andato a scuola. Sono andato, sono andata. This is another interesting thing. So the reason why the present simple of the verb to be is extremely useful to learn is because it allows to speak in Italian more fluently, because we can do without learning the past simple. We can just use the present perfect. And for the present perfect, all we need is the verb to be in the present simple. For example, I went to school. So I have gone to school. We use the verb to be to build this complex tense. Why? Why don't we use the verb to have? Because the verb to go is intransitive, right? We don't go someone, we don't go something. We go to a place, a location, whether that's physical or just a figure of speech, doesn't matter. So it's an intransitive verb, so we use the verb to be to make the present perfect and any complex tense. So all we need is I am, and then gone. So I have gone. That would be the literal translation. I have gone to school. Sono andata, sono andato a scuola. And andato, the past participle, is always the same for any verb. So this is the thing, right? Once you learn the present simple of to be and the present simple of to have, then all you need is the past participle. And the past participle of any verb is trivial. Andare, andato, mangiare, mangiato. You only have 3 versions, right? Are, ere, ire. So very, very trivial. So if you study the present simple of the verb to be, you get the present perfect for free. So we already said we need 3 tenses to speak fluently in Italian. We absolutely need them. We need the present, we need the past, and the future. But the past comes for free if we know the present relatively well. So now we're just down to 2, present and future. Is that clear so far, or is there any question? I'm going to stop for a minute, and I'm going to wait for questions. If I don't get any questions, I'm going to move on to the next sentence, because I think we've exploded this one first sentence. We've kind of covered everything. Pizza is tasty. That's all we wanted to really say. So then in the future, it's going to become pizza will be tasty. And then in the past, pizza was tasty. So yesterday, I would like for you to translate these 2 sentences. We will need the future simple of the verb to be. And this is actually a little bit more... This is using the imperfetto, so I would leave it out for now. Let's just focus on this. Pizza will be tasty. Pizza will be tasty. Or if you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. All right, brilliant. these two examples, I will leave them out. They're not very meaningful in the context of the conversation that we just had. So I would just leave them out. Can we cross them? Sure we can. Well, we'll highlight them in red. No, that's terrible. Just delete them. All right. No questions. So let's move on to the next sentence. The next sentence is a little bit more difficult. I mean, compared to the first one, it's much more difficult, right? This is a normal sentence. The previous one was very, very basic. Notice that this sentence is in the past simple. So I would like for you guys to try and translate this in the best way possible. Again, the goal is not to get it right. The goal is to attempt and see how far we can get without my opinion. So feel free to try your best and give it a shot. Okay, so we have, so Mark is saying, oggi sono andato a Milano. Okay, let's just write it down. Oggi sono andato a Milano per comprare di scarpe. Amedeo, oggi sono stato a Milano per comprare scarpe. Do we have any more versions? Today the weather is depressing to say the least, but that's okay. It's a perfect environment for learning some Italian. Okay, so let's go with these two versions. Oggi sono andato a Milano per comprare di scarpe. So let's focus on the most important part of the sentence. In Italian, but in the language learning world in general, it's crucial to learn about composition, sentence composition, and sentence constituents, and grammatical analysis, so parts of speech. All these things come together into one, but it takes time for someone to really internalize all of it. The most important part of a sentence is always the predicate. So we have two clauses. Oggi sono andato a Milano. That's the first clause. So today I went to Milan to buy a pair of shoes. This is a second clause that's dependent on the primary clause. So it's a sentence made up of two clauses. So this would be the sentence composition. Now, the main clause, today I went to Milan, has a main part to it, which is the predicate. Sono andato. I went. So indeed, this is the main verb. And it's important because it's going to give the most meaning to the sentence, right? It needs to be conjugated right with regard to the person, but also with regard to the tense, the time of action. And today we won't talk about time of action because it's too much. We'll do it next time. Sono andato. Perfect. So we have just implemented what we talked about previously. We needed to talk about something in the past, but we can get away with it. We're not going to use imperfetto. We're not going to use passato remoto. We're not going to use any of the past of what would be considered the past simple. We use the present perfect. So we recycle the past participle andato, and it would be andata for female, and use the present simple of the verb to be. I am. Today I am. So today I literally have gone. Today I went to Milan, a Milano, per comprare, to buy. So it follows the same pattern as it would in English. Per comprare. Comprare is a infinite tense of the verb to buy. Infinite present. Di scarpe. So di scarpe, of shoes, right? So, oh, okay. So yeah, Mark says, I don't know the word for pair. Pair is paio. Comprare paio di scarpe. And of course, we need to tell the listener or the reader which pair, and it's no pair in particular. So a pair, un paio di scarpe. Scarpe is feminine, so the plural form ends in e. That's perfect. So this is correct. There's nothing wrong about this. Today I went to Milan to buy a pair of shoes. Oggi sono andato a Milano per comprare un paio di scarpe. Obviously, you're talking about today, but it must be that you've been to Milan in the morning and now it's afternoon or evening or night because you talk about it in the past, but that's part of the original sentence, right? Second version, oggi sono stato a Milano per comprare scarpe. This is a fair enough sentence, but it's less literal. The translation is less literal, right? There's some slight changes that have been made to the sentence. Sono stato, this is the past participle of the verb to be. So the verb to be, again, we talk about this in the university when we talk about auxiliary verbs. So the verb to be is an auxiliary verb, and that's the same as in English and many other languages. So an auxiliary verb is a verb that is also used to help other verbs to form tenses that are complex, such as the present perfect. But that doesn't mean that those verbs cannot be used in their own right. Of course, when we say pizza is tasty, la pizza è buona, we are using the verb to be by itself. So in this case, we're using the verb to be. I have been to Milan. Today I went to Milan. Today I was in Milan. But also, we are using the verb to be to form the complex tense. So sono. Sono stato a Milano per comprare scarpe. Again, the second part of the sentence is correct, less literal, right? So instead of to buy a pair of shoes, to buy shoes in general. And indeed, I always recommend, although it's a natural thing, I recommend beginners to always simplify. If you don't remember a word, so for example, Mark, you didn't remember, you forgot the word for pair, or you didn't know the word for pair, paio, skip it. Comprare scarpe. So that makes sense, and it's close enough to the original meaning. But anyways, these are just subtleties. So, oggi sono stato a Milano per comprare scarpe. Also correct, but different. I don't know the word for pair. Can I leave out pair and just say comprare scarpe? Of course. Buy shoes. To buy shoes. Per comprare scarpe, per comprare vestiti, in without being very specific. Remember that vestito is masculine. So if you go to Milan to buy clothes, you have to use the correct ending. So it would be vestito for one, vestiti for many. And yeah, that's all there is to say about it. So again, as soon as we stop looking at very simplistic sentences and we look at a real world sentence such as this one, we have to train ourselves to remember breaking it down into multiple clauses so that we understand fully what's going on. And this is something that becomes natural after a while. Right, do we have any questions on this, or can we move on? Because the third sentence is probably the most difficult one, and I don't want to spend too much time on this live. I don't like the live sessions when they get too long, so I think we've done a good job so far. I would like to keep it moving as fast as I can, but making sure that everybody's following. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, in 30 seconds, we're going to move on to the third and last sentence for today. Okay, so we have people that cannot join. I don't know why they cannot join, but I guess we'll find out later. I want to start doing more of this anyways, so I want people to prepare, tough questions, and I think this can be very useful. Let's move on. All right, let's move on. Third and last sentence. I want to test your Italian. So this is the reason why people quit learning Italian. This is the reason why people quit learning Italian. Because Italian has features to it that are both basic and advanced. They are basic because you need them immediately, and they're advanced because you need a lot of knowledge in order for you to understand them. Obviously, native speakers don't have this issue because native speakers don't have a choice. And they end up picking stuff up from their parents. But we don't have our parents at this point. We're adults. If we are learning a foreign language, we have to take this into account. So please give it a go. Translate this sentence in Italian. I will give it to you. This is a very simple sentence, by the way. So there's nothing strange about this sentence. I could create a list of maybe 100 similar sentences to this one, and they would just be normal sentences. I will give this to you. I will give it to you. There's nothing particular about this sentence. It's just that the way Italian makes use of pronouns is wild and requires a lot of knowledge, as I said. Okay, so we have one first version, one first try. Te lo. I just want to make sure that I get the te lo do. Te lo do. So this is an attempt. Feel free to get it wrong, by the way. Get it right, get it wrong, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that we understand everything by the end of this lesson. I won't give you a score, although I might do in the future. That would be fun. For me, maybe not for you. I will give it to you. And I purposely chose the future simple, although the future simple is completely parallel to the issue in this sentence. I only chose this because there was a request to talk about tenses in this lesson, and we did. I think we have talked about tenses, and we continue doing so. So the first sentence, pizza is tasty. First sentence was in the present. The second sentence was in the past. And the third sentence is in the future. But yeah, it's not very important in this case. Te lo darò. Okay, so we have te lo darò, te lo darò. Ti devo. Oh. Okay. So, good attempts. There's only one correct form. Again, now I'm going to go and explain what this all means. It doesn't matter getting it right or wrong. I guess it does matter when you speak in Italian. So let's try not to let's try to understand before we get to speak Italian using these sentences. So first of all, the idea behind the sentence is to make sure that we understand how to use pronouns in Italian. So that's the idea behind the sentence. So in the context of this live session, we're talking about tenses. So tenses and pronouns have nothing in common. So let's talk about the tense first, because it's easy, so we get it out of the way. I will give. I will give is future simple, first person, singular. Darò. Darò. This is how it's written. So we could get this from a table. We can get this from a table in our mind. We can get that from muscle memory, having said it hundreds of times. It doesn't matter how we get it. This is the correct version. Darò. As I said, important in the context of this lesson, but not in the context of this particular sentence. That being said, darò. Now, normally, starting from scratch, in my mind, as an Italian native speaker, I will say io darò. Io darò. I will give. I will give it. Io darò it. It in Italian can be various things, but usually we use this and that, the demonstrative pronouns, this and that. They're so useful. So the demonstrative pronouns is questo, quello. These are so-called demonstrative pronouns. Questo, we'll do it like this, and quello, and we'll do it like this. So, I will give it. Io darò quello. Io darò quello. And of course, it could be feminine. So for example, I could give something to you that is feminine, for example, a bottle. Io darò quella. But let's just keep it simple. Stick with the masculine for now to understand this topic. Io darò quello. Io darò quello. I will give it to you. A te. Why is it a te? Because to, the preposition to, is a. Simple prepositions. Di, a, da, in, con, super, tra, fra. Now, there are very few things that I learned in school that were useful. This is one of them. So sometimes you have to learn something off by heart. I think the simple prepositions is a very simple, short, concise list. It rhymes, so I suggest you learn it, especially if you're a beginner. If you're not a beginner, then it might not make sense. But if you're a beginner, it might help you. And also, you know, Italian native speakers, they learn this in school. I'm not making this stuff up. Io darò quello a te. Why te and not tu? Because we need the object pronoun, not the subject pronoun, right? So we have lots of tables in the courses that we do. People from the university might be familiar with the pronoun, with the diagram that we have. It's got all the pronouns in it. And, you know, you have the object pronouns and you have the subject pronouns. So going back to, I got lost now. Right, so going back to our sentence. We need the object pronoun. So me, te, lui, lei, etc. There's actually more difference between the subject and object pronouns in English than there is between the subject and object pronouns in Italian. So it should be easy to learn them. Io darò quello a te. So this is the spelt out version of I will give it to you, or I will give that to you. This is the spelt out version. So if I were to translate literally word for word from English to Italian, I would get to this. Io darò quello a te. And indeed, if you spoke Italian like this, people would understand what you mean. However, this is not how you will hear people speak. Why? Because, first of all, if you spent at least, I would say even like 10, 20 hours studying Italian, you know that the conjugation makes the explicit subject not compulsory. So we can do without the subject. We can just go. So let's just put it in a different step. We can go darò. Darò contains the subject information. So we can infer from that conjugation who is doing what, or who is performing the action. Darò. Io. Okay, fine. So we do without the subject pronoun. Darò quello a te. What happens is, in Italian you have strong form and weak form. And I know I bang on about this forever in the courses we do for a reason. It's because it's in every Italian sentence. Strong form, weak form. What does that mean? Darò quello is very rare. It's very rare that someone has to point out, that someone has to stress the word it in a sentence such as I will give it to you. It's possible. But usually what is represented in the so-called strong form is not key in the sentence. So Italians choose to represent that pronoun in their weak form. The weak form for quello is lo, and the weak form darò quello a te. Hold on a minute, I'm just gonna... Okay. Darò quello a te. Let's just copy this down so that we have everything on the same page. So the first step was io darò quello a te. Second step is darò quello a te. We do without the subject. Third step is we use the weak form lo darò a te. And notice how we have two different vowel sounds, o and a. One is closed, one is open, right? And we have the accent to tell us that. Lo darò. Lo darò means I will give it. Same as this. But this is using the so-called weak form. Lo darò. This is an object pronoun. Let me know if you don't follow, because I can stop. Or if you have any questions, ask me at the end. It's fine. Now, we also have this other constituent, a te, to you. A te is a constituent that has a meaning, right? And this constituent can also turn into its weak form version, basically. We have a strong form version, a te, and we have a weak form as well, which is ti darò. Darò a te is the same as ti darò. So, ti darò and then obviously we add lo. Ti darò. But here's the problem. So this is not correct. I'll tell you what's correct. Lo darò is correct, and ti darò is correct. So they're both correct. This and this is just the predicate, right? It's the verb, darò. Quello, which is the object, the direct object constituent. So I will give what? That. So quello can be shortened and it becomes lo darò. The same can happen to the other constituent, which is the indirect object, to you, complemento di termine. It becomes ti darò in the short form, right? Weak form, strong form, strong form. However, and this is a rule that catches people out, when we have multiple weak forms, so when we decided, if we decide to shorten multiple constituents, and multiple means two, because you cannot do it with three. So if it's not just one, but if it's two that take their so-called weak form, then we have a so-called cluster. We have a pronoun cluster. Un cumulo pronominale. And Italian is full of this. And people tell me, oh, you shouldn't teach this stuff, it's too advanced. Well, if it's too advanced, then you cannot say things like, I will give it to you, I give it to you, I take it from you. Like, these are everyday basic sentences that everybody should be able to understand. So I refuse to do without teaching this stuff, because it's complicated, but once you go through all the steps, it becomes easy. So when you have a pronoun cluster, the pronoun clusters, I'm afraid, take a slightly different form than just the weak forms by themselves. And they become te lo darò. So indeed, it is te lo darò, as someone pointed out earlier. And everybody was very quick at getting to these formulae. I'm very curious as to what the rationale behind this is, whether you've studied this in the past in like tables. I think it's very good to at least once walk the walk from beginning to end and really understand where things come from. Because I think if they taught me this and I wasn't a native speaker, I would be, I would have to take my time to really look into it and understand what's going on, because there's a lot going on. But here is the translation. So this is the final translation. I'm just going to highlight it here. And so you all actually came pretty damn close to it. This is correct. This is just missing an accent, but it's virtually correct. This was close. This is close. This was missing one little bit, but very, very, very good. These are the complex things that make people quit learning Italian. Especially if someone doesn't go through the process of learning things from scratch, parts of speech, sentence constituents, composition. These are all topics that come together as one and allow us to speak Italian properly. Awesome. I think we've gone through enough material. We've been live for enough time. Does anyone have any last minute questions? If not, I think we've been doing this for half an hour now, and it's pretty good. Do you guys have any suggestion, any comment? Do you like sessions like this? Do you want more of this? Do you think it was too much? Do you think it was too easy? Mark is saying it only took me 14 months to get close to being correct. That's good. But here's the thing. I always say this. If things were easy, they would have no value. If speaking Italian wasn't impressive, if it was easy, it wouldn't be impressive, right? If anyone could do it quickly, it wouldn't be impressive. It's not like putting on some new clothes. Is rewiring your brain pathways. It's a long thing. It's a long process. But something that takes long to build, it takes long to unbuild, or actually, it might stick for life. So it's good on at least looking at the bright side of spending 14 months or spending a long amount of time to learn something that is by its very nature a long thing to learn, very complex. Brilliant. Please do more. Yeah, we'll do more. I think, I have a plan for this. So I have, I want this to be more interactive, but I like the way it's gone. I don't want these sessions to be too long. I think half an hour is plenty. All right, brilliant. I'm gonna close the live. This is our first live. I think it's been a success, given that I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to these things. I am I'm learning with you. We learned a little bit of Italian. We learned a little bit of basic tenses. And then we sort of quickly explored the idea of clusters and pronouns. They're completely different topics, but mostly we, cover tenses and the importance of the tenses, which tenses are important. So present, past, future. And then we have some very simple tenses that come for free, basically, like the infinite, the gerund, the past participle. These things kind of come for free. Why the verb to be and the verb to have are more important than other verbs, and it's important to know their present conjugation so that you can then use the past, the present perfect as past in Italian. And we looked at a bunch of words, Italian words and non-Italian words as well. Awesome. I will make sure to invite you to the next one. I'm thinking of doing one every week, every Sunday. We should sit here and practice more. And it's been fun. Congratulations to the people that turned up and actually practiced and learned and showed me that they have a pretty good understanding of some of the topics that we covered. So I'm proud. And good Sunday. Thank you all, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. I'm going to switch off